But let's also talk about how excellence is a part of that evangelism. Because oftentimes we just think just because it's like the Apollo effect. It's like, well, I'm failing. Let me go ahead and throw some Jesus on this thing and it'll be all right.
It works for some people,
Nah,
unfortunately.
nah, son. Excellence is an amazing evangelism.
What is up, everyone? We are back with another episode of Shaping the Culture. Now, let's just get to it. The whole secular sacred divide. There is no distinction in the scriptures. Some of us have trust issues with God, and some of us, it's like, does God really got us? You can't engage the culture with the gospel that first has not engaged you. Like, you know how people are like, oh, that's just who I am. Nah.
Drop the mic. Drop the mic. Drop the mic.
Shaping the code.
Good evening, everybody. My question is, we've talked a lot about culture today, and culture as it relates to Christianity. And we had a session, a workshop about worship and music and how culture influences music. And my question is, many of you are artists, how can we wrestle with how a lot of secular music is introducing doctrine, teaching to the world that even some churches are adopting, whereas it's a form of worship, but worship that's not glorifying God. So how can we counterbalance how music is so influential, but influencing the wrong types of teachings at times?
It's definitely not trying to be the Christian version of a certain artist. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Christian version of Drake. You know what I'm saying? I think it is first trusting God with the gift that he's given you and submitting it to him. So if I understand that the majority of rap music right now is talking about drugs, it's talking about sex, it's talking about being with multiple women, I have to stay true to what I know the Bible says, depending on the type of artist that you feel called to be, and let that influence your art, right? So being a Christian artist nowadays, I think Christian hip hop is actually in one of the best states it's ever been. I feel like it's actually like one of the biggest states it's ever been. Like if you know artists like Hovey or High Forest or all these different cats, like they're doing astronomical things, and they're doing it with worship songs, right? And it's very unique. This isn't something that would have stood in the industry maybe 10 years ago. It would have been like, this is way too much. But I feel like with this next generation, I feel like we're kind of embracing authenticity with that, right? And people like real. So one thing with me is like I've been on tour with secular artists. There's an artist called Ace Hood, who's a friend of mine, and I went on a club tour with him, 40 dates. That was insane. I had my pastor calling me every day. You know what I'm saying? You know what authenticity looks like? We're performing in the club at 1 a.m, and I'm performing my Christian rap songs on stage. And I'm sharing the gospel on stage. And I'm praying for people in the back. And I'm getting on a tour bus. And I'm having conversations with these guys. Want to know how to go fight against darkness is being the light. It's not trying to fit in with the darkness. Are you kidding me? And it's very simple. We overcomplicate it. It's like, man, I gotta kind of like, I let my guard down and do these different things so they accept me. We're talking about identity, right? I'm already accepted. So no matter how this person looks at me or describes me, I'm standing 10 toes. Like, what are we talking about right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, are we saved by the same grace that we talking about right now? So it's just like, so when we're making the music, it's like, you can't tell me what I'm about to put in my music. You know what I'm saying? And say, oh, you can't say Jesus, you can't do that. It's being authentic to the gifts that God has given you. Not every artist is like a Hovey, not every artist, but you can see God's hand on the specific types of music. If you listen to my music, my artist's name is Shepherd. I make more mainstream type music. We landed a contract with the NFL a month ago. A month contract. Awesome. It's in the commercials and everything. It's a Christian rap song. How is that possible? That's submitting your gifts to God. It's not me cursing in my music and being like, yeah, I'm all this. And the song, I'm talking about God's grace and how he's sufficient. And God honors that.
But let's also talk about how excellence is a part of that evangelism. Because oftentimes we just think just because it's like the Apollo effect. It's like, well, I'm failing. Let me go ahead and throw some Jesus on this thing and it'll be all right.
It works for some people, unfortunately.
Nah, son. Excellence is an amazing evangelism. And so when you're great at what you do, but here's the other thing. I think we oftentimes have very imbalanced expectations within our society because we have this idea that America is a Christian nation. And so therefore we have expectations of the world that I think are ridiculous. The world is going to be dark. People are going to love the flesh, love the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. And our job is to be the light and not expect them not to love those things. And so to me, when we are operating in culture, we have to also be very careful to not allow our engagement to be compromised. Because sometimes some of us are just thinking, well, I'll engage in culture, I'll engage. And this is really what we're doing is we're compromising, and for the sake of relevance. And there's nothing more authentic than being a light for the Lord because people can sniff it out. They'll sniff out the inauthenticity.